Here's what you get for staying: a map of the design flaw no one wants to audit. How Buddhist institutions, from monasteries to mindfulness brands, quietly externalize old age to families, governments, and luck. If dharma is a technology for suffering, why are our elders suffering in ways a spreadsheet could have prevented? The party line says the mind is ageless. Biology declines anyway. Knees go first. Hearing fades. Names slip. The calendar crowds with funerals of friends who were there when the roof leaked and no one else came. And suddenly the radiant teacher becomes a logistics problem we weren't spiritual enough to plan for. I'm not here to perform piety. I'm here to ask indecent questions the donation page never will. Who pays the rent when the robed celebrity stops touring? Where is the pension inside a vow of poverty? Who holds medical power of attorney for the nun with no children, the monk with no spouse, the lay teacher whose community is a mailing list? If the answer is, we'll figure it out, that's not compassion. That's gambling with sacred people's lives. Aging exposes two myths we keep retailing. One, wisdom grows as the body fades. So logistics will be magically light. Two, a community that could organize a retreat will surely organize a dignified old age. Both are wrong. Without governance, care collapses into crisis, and crisis converts elders into PR problems, sanitized updates, brave smiles, quiet relocations. What should be the lineage's clearest teaching becomes its quiet shame. This episode is not a grief bath, it's an audit. If you learn to see the flaw, you will stop donating to Brick and start funding time. You will stop clapping for charisma and start asking for receipts, housing plans, respite rosters, archive stewards, hospice partnerships, actual money. You will recognize that the most advanced practice available to a community might be boring, budgets and backups. And you will measure a lineage not by how it performs youth, but by how it protects those who can no longer perform at all. We love to quote, emptiness when knees hurt. The body is not the self. Fine, the body still bleeds, and compassion that can't count hemoglobin is theater. The ageless mind myth does useful work against vanity and terror. It does lethal work when leaders use it to dodge responsibility for infrastructure. Clinging to youth is suffering. True, designing for youth is negligence. Look at our forms. Zazen benches punish hips made in 1945. Chanting assumes lungs that sprint stairs. Retreat schedules presume bladders with competitive focus. Teaching formats privilege memory under glare, diction without microphones, and eyesight that can find the line on a yellowed page at dawn. We pretend it's discipline. Often it's laziness, an unwillingness to retool rites so elders don't have to privatize pain. The myth shows up in speech. She's so luminous, suffering doesn't touch her. That sentence is a theft. It steals the right to ask for a chair with arms, a room on the first floor, a ride at 10 p.m. It keeps elders polite while the young stay inspired. Inspiration is cheap. Stadiums sell it nightly. The Dharma's price is different. We owe practical tenderness to the bodies carrying our teachings across decades. There's a second myth: cognitive decline equals spiritual decline. Sometimes the mind slows, sometimes it deepens in the only ways that matter. Patience that no longer leaks, humor that de-escalates rooms, authority that renounces itself. But even if decline arrives, the person deserves rituals that work at their bandwidth. Fewer syllables, more space, a liturgy of presence rather than performance. If your timeless wisdom cannot be spoken through dentures and hearing aids, it was a fashion, not a refuge. Aging doesn't humiliate the Dharma. The Dharma humiliates itself when it refuses to meet age at eye level and says emptiness where it should say elevator. Follow the money. An alms model evokes purity and hides poverty. Lay teachers earn during tours. Illness cancels tours. Monastics rely on dana. Landlords and hospitals prefer invoices. Centers own property for the sangha. The deed protects the building, not the person who spent 40 years heating it with their breath. Donors prefer capital bricks with plaques over care, salaries, night shifts, diapers, rides. Why? Capital flatters ego, care consumes it, volunteerism completes the trap. Will be there for you is sincere at 40 and dangerous at 80. Volunteers burn out, schedules slip. The one competent caregiver becomes the de facto spouse without any rights. Communities quietly discover that insurance agents speak more Buddhist truth than any of us. Care is time, time is money, and money without governance corrodes friendships. Add the brand economy. Teachers become content. Content has half life. When clicks fall, the platform's attention moves on, and with it, the peer group that could have organized help. The elder becomes a memory with a newsletter footer. In gratitude to our founding teacher. Gratitude without groceries is a poem that lies. A truly adult Sangha would publish a care ledger. Pensions, yes, the word you're allergic to. Emergency funds, long-term housing partnerships, respite budgets that keep caregivers human, and a vote-binding commitment that care spending outranks capital projects once a leader crosses a certain threshold of need. Instead, we run on whispers. Who's visiting? Who's failing? Who's quietly picking up every bill? There's nothing holy about secrecy. It just makes exploitation look like merit. We tell ourselves a fairy tale. The teacher will see it coming, gather the assembly, lay hands on a worthy successor, and die tidy. Sometimes, more often, ambiguity, factions, lawyers, and a slow cognitive winter. Everyone postures around while pretending it's deep retreat. Dementia doesn't announce itself with ritual. It steals nouns in kitchens. It feeds conspiracies. The inner circle becomes the gate. Critics become traitors. And every request for clarity is framed as a lack of faith. Where is the plan that matters? Not the Dharma seal, the legal seal. Who holds power of attorney? Who has medical decision rights? Who can access bank accounts and archives? Is there a neutral elder board empowered to step in when judgment fails, not to edit teachings, but to protect the human? If those answers require a phone tree and a mood, the Sangha is unsafe by design. Succession without care is PR. Care without succession is collapse. We need both. Archive stewards to keep a lifetime's mind from scattering into drawers. Financial stewards to prevent the indignity of GoFundMe hospice. Ritual stewards who can translate authority into blessing even as the body forgets names. And we need one impolite norm. No one holds absolute spiritual authority past the point where two independent physicians say capacity is impaired. Call it harsh, I call it humane. The cruelest design flaw is charisma until death. It attracts donors and forbids transition. A wiser design orders glory to step aside while love keeps working. If your lineage cannot stage that move without a civil war, it didn't build a religion. It built a brand that can't survive its founder. The attention economy worships smooth skin and fast cuts. It optimizes for legible faces under ring lights, not hands that shake while still blessing rooms. Elders don't disappear because wisdom dried up. They disappear because the machine can't price what doesn't spike. Interviews shorten. Panels diversify for optics and silently dock points for tremor, pause, wandering. We want accessibility, say organizers, while quietly arranging everything to punish slowness. Travel, stairs, formats that penalize the time it takes to remember a word. We lose more than sentiment. We lose range. Older teachers carry tacit knowledge our PDFs can't hold. How to spot a predator in a robe, how to talk down a room that smells like panic, how to laugh at disaster without belittling pain. Their presence is a vaccine against charisma fever. They've seen cults rise and fall. Their boredom with theatrics saves lives. When the algorithm hides them, the next generation learns the dharma from thumbnails and merch. They master slogans. They forget how to sit after the sirens leave. Ableism isn't just cruelty to bodies, it's epistemic collapse. A tradition that silences slow speech trains itself to misunderstand subtlety. A sangha that hides wheelchairs teaches that fragility is failure, not shared fate. If you can't imagine yourself on that cushion in 30 years, you're consuming dharma as a lifestyle, not adopting it as a home. The right question is impolite and indispensable. Will this room still want me when my hands shake? If the answer is, we'll find a way, the way should already be built. Consider the default set. Long sits on low cushions, scripted bows at speeds that challenge knees made for other wars, chant books with 8-point fonts, call and response led by voices trained for wooden halls, not cochlears with hearing aids, dharma talks delivered without real-time captions, schedules that punish diuretics and diabetes, noble silence used to avoid asking who needs a ride home in the dark. We justify with tradition, but tradition is an action verb, received, examined, adapted. If a ritual requires pain to wake you up, pain will always be in stock. If a teaching requires perfect recall to purify mind, it will filter out the very minds we need to hear. The audit isn't about making practice soft, it's about making it true. Fit to the beings in front of us, not to a fantasy of monastic youth. Cognitive bandwidth narrows with age. So does editing self-presentation. That can be a gift. Elders say the sentence, the polite, avoid. Our forms should honor that sharpness by giving it room. Fewer cues, stronger microphones, facilitator teams with patience as their first credential. And our vows should include an infrastructural clause. No retreat center passes a spiritual test if a 75-year-old can't use it without embarrassment. When we say all beings, we often mean all able beings. That isn't cruelty, it's momentum. The fix is mundane. Swap chairs, enlarge type, slow transitions, name rides, publish maps, not tactics, tendencies, not tips, values. The aim isn't convenience, it's fidelity, a practice designed to meet consciousness across the lifespan, not just during the years when it looks good on flyers. What happens when we don't fix the flaw? Nothing public at first, then small tragedies stack. A founding teacher moves temporarily to a cheaper apartment far from students. Visits drop. A center fractures when heirs weaponize access to a declining master. Litigation eats the archive. A lay caregiver burns out, disappears, and is remembered as unstable because acknowledging extraction would require repentance and budgets. The Sangha learns to speak in euphemisms. She's resting. He's focusing on health. Meanwhile, elders unravel in rooms that were supposed to be refuge. The cost is not only to them, it is to the story the Dharma tells about itself. A path that can't organize food and company for the people who carried it isn't a path, it's an aesthetic. There are also the flips, groups that did the unglamorous work. They named successors before anyone begged. They converted fame into stipends for staff who stayed after crowds thinned. They published care charters, they trained archivists, they normalized pauses where elders could say, "I'm tired," without losing honor. Those communities don't go viral, they survive. Their students grow into adults who can love without performance. We have to choose our mirror, the cleaned up obituary that edits struggle out, or the ledger that made the last decade dignified. Don't say impermanence, where you mean we forgot. Don't say emptiness, where you mean we were cheap. The bill for denial is always paid by the same people, the quiet, the loyal, the old. If the Dharma cannot protect them, it's time to stop calling it Dharma and start calling it nostalgia. Aging is not Dharma's enemy, it is Dharma's exam. We have glamorized beginnings and privatized endings, hoping that wisdom would pay our invoices. It won't. What pays is governance soaked in love, budgets that prefer time over tile, charters that put relief before recognition, archives that keep the mind of a life from scattering, succession that blesses before biology forces it, rooms where slowness isn't a problem but a tempo. Stop telling yourself that tenderness is the opposite of rigor. Tenderness is the form rigor takes when bodies break. Stop applauding selflessness while constructing economies that consume the selfless and discard them when they can't carry chairs. Start measuring a lineage by how safe it makes its elders feel to be exactly as they are on Tuesday afternoon in February when nothing is photogenic and everything real needs doing. The design flaw is not aging. The flaw is our refusal to admit that love without ops is theater. You want a path that can cross a lifetime? Then build one in public with receipts. Publish the care plan, rotate the power, put money where mouths are. Teach the young that excellence is measured by the dignity of endings. Teach the old that they will not be exiled for being old, and teach donors that glory is a quiet room with company at night. If your Dharma can't carry a frail body up one flight of stairs, it's not a path, it's decor. Keep the statue if you like. I want the handrail.